not believe this, but it's been 25 years now since the airlines created those frequent flyer programs. But if you've used one of those programs lately, I don't need to tell you they are more complicated than ever. Joining me now from New York to tell us how to get the most out of your frequent flyer miles is Norman Vanamee. Norman, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you very much for having me.
And I want to point out that you are editor-in-chief of Sherman's Travel Magazine, a wonderful read, and there is an article in the latest edition about this. I got to tell you, I have tried to redeem my miles a few times in the last year. The lack of service, which, well, that's a different topic.
It's so hard. The
blackout dates, I'm telling you, are really, really difficult. How do I redeem these miles?
Well, Mary, that was exactly what prompted us to do this article. It's the programs have been around for 25 years, and for the most part, they've been pretty static and fairly easy to use. But in the last few years, they've gotten really difficult and really complicated. There's more blackout dates. There's more capacity controls. It can be really tough. That said, it's also much easier nowadays to earn miles. So we came up with some good suggestions on how to make the most of your miles.
Okay, one of them you say is talking to a human being, and you say it's preferable some of the time than going online and doing this. When is it more preferable to actually talk to somebody?
Well, this was actually something that surprised me. We spoke to a lot of experts. A lot of airlines have very intricate online booking services now, and it's less expensive to do it that way, but they can be very cumbersome and very complicated. So if you're planning a complicated itinerary with more than one stop, our experts suggested that you just get on the phone and get a hold of a person, because they'll know the routes better. They'll know other options that you can take. Be forewarned, though, that sometimes this includes a small fee.
All right. Now, it does seem like we have a list up there of your top 5 tips, and it seems to me that it's a bit of a no-brainer that you save your miles for those really expensive trips, whether it's domestic or a big international trip, right? I mean, is there any reason you'd want it for a cheap flight that you can get for $200 somewhere?
Well, this is a big dilemma. A lot of people, like I've faced this a number of times. I have many thousands of miles, and for the most part, don't spend your miles on inexpensive tickets. If you can get it, like our experts agreed, around $200 or less, $300 or less, just buy the ticket on yourself. But there's a caveat to that, which is that sometimes, if you need to go somewhere during a high season and you can get the ticket through your rewards, you may have to spend double the amount, but it's worth it just because you won't find a cheap deal otherwise. Okay,
good point. So in some cases, go ahead and use it domestically. It's going to save you money, but be smart about it is essentially the rule there.
Exactly. For the most case, like the big trips, use your miles on the big trips.
All right. Now, of course, status does matter with those miles. Not all frequent flyers are created equal from the airline's point of view. What do I need to do? What status do I need to be to get the best service?
Well, that's another thing. Now, as everybody knows, the status is really, those clubs are meant to really reward the most frequent flyers. Now, the people who can get to the top tier clubs, like 100,000, usually it's 100,000 miles, with no problem at all, their biggest concern is picking a program that best suits them. So if they need a program that, they can look and see if there's one that has a great baggage handling thing, that's something to look for. Or if they're really interested in great lounges, for example, Lufthansa has just made a first-class only terminal in Frankfurt, Germany. That's great if you're flying to Frankfurt a lot, but you really have to do a little investigating for what's best for you.
Yeah, now, and do some reading too, because you may not have had the opportunity to fly some of these airlines, and the one you're stuck on oftentimes is what you use because you have that loyalty already there. So maybe do some reading, and there are times where it probably makes sense to switch that loyalty.
Absolutely. Once again, conventional wisdom was stick with one program and you'll accrue the most miles. The experts we spoke to now say that that's not necessarily true. If you're not going to achieve the highest status on the program that you want, consider going to 2 programs where you can get on one of the lower statuses. So you'll still, get the extra miles and be able to upgrade occasionally.
And we should point out, because I know this for my credit card that is tied to an airline, I don't get elite status, even though I rack up lots of money on that credit card. I get the point, so I'm able to use it, but don't think that your credit card is necessarily going to give you that elite status, right?
Absolutely, you have to be very careful when you're reading. There's a few that do, but you know, that's now more than ever. It's really important to read the fine print when you know. There's so many loopholes that used to be you could sort of ignore the email updates and the junk mail stuff, but you really have to be on top of this stuff now.
Well, Norman Vanamee is the editor-in-chief of Sherman's Travel Magazine, and I thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
I'll be right back.
You're watching Money Matters Today with Mary Caracoli.